So here's my audience. Oh, perfect. Yeah, good. So I'm Kyle, and this is my persuasive speech on honeybees and American agriculture. So in recent years, honeybees have kind of been facing a lot of issues. So much so that Time magazine actually wrote an article called "Plight of the Honeybee" on it. And then a couple of other visual aids are jar of honey, because a lot of people know that bees, make honey, but they don't know how much they pollinate. That's actually a major thing in agriculture right now. And then I also brought two little samples, honeybees that died of natural causes, of course. So my speech. So honeybees are vital to the food supply, to the world's food supply. 1/3 of the food supply comes from bees, either directly or indirectly. And that fact comes from ars.usda.gov. So a lot of our favorite foods, apples, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, oranges, asparagus, things like that are pollinated by honeybees. And some things like almonds are pollinated almost completely by honeybees. And that fact comes from nrdc.org. So a reason why I'm qualified to talk about this topic is not only because I've been a beekeeper for the past 6 years, but I've also given presentations on honeybees at River Falls and some national conferences, and was also involved in some research. So honeybees are currently facing a lot of problems. CCD, or colony collapse disorder, is defined as a hive with no adult bees that are alive or dead, but it has a live queen, honey, and immature bees. And that fact comes from ars.usda.gov. From 2006 to 2011, we lost 1/3 of all the hives in the U.S., and then 1/3 of that third is believed to be caused by CCD, according to beekeepers. And that fact comes from ars.usda.gov. So the term CCD is used less because it's believed to be more of a symptom than a disease itself. And that fact comes from takepart.com. Instead, the general decline of honeybee health is believed to be from four factors that are known as the 4 Ps. That's pathogens, poor food supply due to monoculture farming, parasites, and pesticides. So back in 2006, honeybee colonies began dying out at unacceptable rates, and this might be due to some of our American agricultural practices. And these three reasons for this may be the use of pesticides, poor food supply due to monoculture farming, and the fact that many bees come in contact with other bees, spreading disease. So since systemic pesticides, especially neonicotinoids, grow with the plant and attack the bee's nervous system, that comes from bostonglobe.com, and this causes some problems because when bees are out foraging, they come across a lot of plants that are treated with pesticides, like corn, which really isn't, doesn't need bees to pollinate. They just can collect the pollen. So when they come in contact with pesticide, they can either kill them directly if there's a large enough amount, or they can bring it back, or when they come in contact with it, it can disorient them so they can't make it back to their hive. Or they can bring it back to the hive, and then over time the concentration gets so high that when bees leave, they're disoriented so they can't find their way back. And either one of these could be true. We're not really sure which yet, but the European Union has already banned these neonicotinoid pesticides. That also comes from bostonglobe.com. So monoculture farming can create a food desert so that bees, they almost starve throughout the year. So monoculture farming is when you have like a single crop planted in a large area, so like a large field of corn or soybeans or something like that. So even if it's something they can get a lot of food from, they can only pollinate at a certain time of the year. So unless they're able to get everything they could need from it during that time, they're gonna have poor nutrition, because it's one source of food isn't really good enough, and also because they'll start to starve by the end of the year because they're running out usually. So monoculture farming can cause other problems as well. With large areas of one crop planted, you have to you have to pollinate most of the crops some way. A lot of them are bee pollinated, so you have to ship in bees to pollinate them for the few weeks that they're in bloom, which is a process known as migratory beekeeping. So the problem with migratory beekeeping in some crops like almonds is that almonds need almost 100% of the migratory beekeeping colonies in the country to come to be in one place at one time, and that comes from Time magazine. And the problem with this is that any bee that has, or any colony that has, a virus or parasite or disease, they can spread it really quickly through all the migratory beekeeping colonies, and then they'll spread it to others. So that's something we want to try to do away with. So this all seems kind of bleak, but there are things we can do to help the bees get back on their own 6 feet. So we can try to either use less pesticides or use different pesticides. Try to repeal that and use monoculture farming less, so that the bees will be able to get better food, and also to not being spreading diseases is bad either. There's also something that everybody can do. You can on your own lawn you can use less pesticides, or a different kind of pesticide that's not bad for bees. You can also plant pollinator-friendly crops in your flower or vegetable garden, so that the bees will have better food supply year-round. And you can also leave weeds like dandelions longer, like mow your lawn a little bit less when they're in bloom, because bees get a lot of food from them, actually. Or you can start beekeeping yourself. It only takes a couple $100, and after that you get honey from them, and you can get better crops and better flowers for yourself. So it's kind of a win-win in that respect. So in conclusion, the 3 main reasons that there are the 3 problems with monoculture farming related to beekeeping are the use of pesticides, the poor food supply due to monoculture farming, and the fact that bees come in contact with a lot of other bees, spreading disease quickly. So here's my audience.